The WEC is back for 2025, and so are our race previews, brought to you by Le Mans Ultimate, the official game of the FIA World Endurance Championship. And the first race of the 2025 season, well, it's the 1,812 kilometres of Qatar, which equates to about 10 hours of racing. Pre-season testing, otherwise known as the Prologue, has already taken place here in Qatar last weekend. 14 hours of track time completed. There's lots to unpack. Let's get into it. And also welcome back, WEC expert Sam Smith. Sam, how great is it to be back in an amazing season for the championship?
Well, just when we thought that the grid couldn't get more stacked and more competitive, we've now got, I think, not just a once-in-a-generation grid here with manufacturers. I think we've generally got a once-in-a-lifetime grid of amazing sports cars. It's absolutely brim-full of quality manufacturers, quality teams and quality drivers. I can't think of another grid on earth in motorsport that is as competitive as this one. So really looking forward to it. I think we're going to have multiple threads to talk about through the season.
Well, we're going to get into each of the teams in just a moment, but before we do, what can we expect from Qatar on our second visit here now?
Well, we saw last year, didn't we, that it was all about the tyres, how you treated the tyres, how you warm the tyres up. It's a really interesting service. It's not abrasive, but you do get this sort of graining, sort of micro graining with the Michelins in the Hypercar in particular. So managing that, the teams will have learnt that. So I expect everything to bunch up, and for one manufacturer like we had last year with Porsche, not to have an advantage. So it's going to be ultra close.
Well, how about we get into it? Because actually I want us to just vaguely wander in this direction, because we have something really, really exciting to talk about. Welcome, Aston Martin, to the Hypercar class. Aston Martin Thought Team stands for Heart of Racing. That's not a Marvel reference, although it would be quite enjoyable. 007 and 009. Turns out 007 actually quite important because it's differentiating between the number 7 of Toyota Gazoo Racing and the 007 of Aston Martin. But let's talk about the car, because oh my goodness, it's an incredible piece of machinery we've got with us, isn't it?
Well, the Valkyrie says it all, doesn't it? I mean, just a wonder car. Sonorous V12, 6.5 litre engine. It's the only non-hybrid in the championship now. And I think what these guys have brought, and the story, actually, the backstory of how they've got here, because it wasn't easy. You know, it took a few hurdles, many hurdles to get over, but now they're here with the 007, the 009, all British team in the 007 with Harry Tinknell, Ross Gunn, and Tom Gamble, who I'm really looking forward to see. And then obviously Marco Sorensen, we got Roman De Angelis with some of the races this year. And obviously Alex Riberas has come up from LMGT3. So really interesting driver lineup, but certainly this car is going to hit the headlines on its debut. I think we're going to have to give them time. They're naturally going to have at least half a season to get anywhere near podium contention, let's say. Yeah. But if they can get some solid point scoring positions this season, it'll be a huge success, and it's going to be a definite crowd pleaser for sure. That's
for sure, and you can literally hear it all the way around the track when you're stood in the paddock. It's almost like a battle between this and the Cadillac. And let's carry on, because one thing that you mentioned there was the fact that we should allow them half a season before they even start considering podiums, because they are the new kids on the block. But if you go down the alphabet to the next team we're going to talk about, Alpine, they had that year, and by the end of the year, they were challenging for podiums. What do they look like for 2025?
They were, great podium in Fuji. They were quick in Bahrain as well. They've played one of the Evo Jokers, which is essentially an upgrade, and they've done that on the Mechachrome engine front. So I think they could be the real surprise package this year. They've got Frederick Makovicky, who's come from Porsche. He's known within the industry as a sort of driver, tyre, whisperer. He's like Michelin's go-to driver when it comes to testing the rubber. So, if he can bring a lot on the vehicle dynamics, and they've got an improvement on the engine front, then I expect those to be some of the last ingredients where Alpine can then really push forward and get some, go beyond podiums potentially and become a potential race winner this year.
Yeah, I spoke to Fred and he was really, really positive about moving into that team, and French driver, French team, lots of potential for him to help and grow it, like you said. And there has been a little bit of a switch around between those two cars, right?
Yes, there has. 35, we've got Paul-Luc Chatin, Ferdinand Habsburg and Charles Milesi. Milesi was the form man, wasn't he, last season?
Yeah, really impressive.
Jules Gounon has come in as a full-time driver for his first full season of WEC this season. He's going to be with Mick Schumacher and the aforementioned Makovicky. So I think driver-wise, they are stronger than they were last season across the board. But, watch out for Makovic and how he helps with his experience in developing that A424 Mechachrome 3.4 litre car.
Sam, I know I said to you we were going to do this in alphabetical order, but this feels like too perfect an opportunity not to stop and talk about Ferrari. So I'm changing my plans already. We'll run with it. Because look at this beautiful new red on the Ferrari. It's had a lot of people talking this weekend. There's actually been a few other changes in the team too, hasn't there, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, they've obviously got consistency with their drivers this season. Third successive season that they've been unchanged in terms of the driver lineup. And they have played an Evo Joker, so an emphasis on some of the reliability. We saw a few results last season go away from them, and obviously they weren't in contention really for the manufacturer's title, and that's going to be one of the key things they're fighting for this season. In the 83, the yellow AF Course Ferrari, we've got a new driver, Phil Hansen, a driver we know well, obviously, from LMP2 days with United and with Jota Porsche last season. That's going to be interesting. He fills in for Robert Schwartzman, who's gone across to IndyCar for this season. So with Kubica and FIA, they proved they could win races last year at Qatar, and I think they're going to be certainly as strong in certain circuits as the two factory cars. So lots to watch out for Ferrari. I think in their minds they're going to want to sort of fight back and get in that contention for the manufacturer's title, and obviously they're still to win a race outside of Le Mans.
Well, 83's done it. They haven't.
They haven't. The factory team haven't. But listen, if they get a hat trick, an unprecedented sort of hat trick in modern times for Ferrari at Le Mans, then it's going to be another successful season.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how things play out here. Now let's carry on down the pit lane. We'll go back into alphabetical order. Cycle back up to BMW. Headline: Welcome Kevin Magnussen.
Yes, well, better late than never. He was going to be here in 2022, wasn't he, with Peugeot, and then he went back to Formula One, had 3 seasons in Formula One. Great to see Kevin back. Obviously, great family heritage with what Jan achieved at Le Mans and in IMSA in particular, and still racing, by the way, still doing his stuff across the world in certain racing formats. But, Kevin, I expect to hit the ground running. He's done some testing with the team over the winter. Super talented guy, great guy as well, very engaged, and he's going to be great for the championship. In that car, he replaces Marco Wittmann, of course, so his teammates are going to be Dries Van Toor, who was one of the standout drivers last season, and Raffaele Marciello, who we know has got the flair to really be one of the top performers in hypercar as well. BMW, I would say that they've gone up a notch significantly for this season, and I expect them to break their duck this season and take at least one victory.
Let's move on to Cadillac. Big excitement there because there's been a big change.
Huge change, yeah. They are now with the Hertz Team Jota crew, operationally run by probably the best privateer entity in global sports car racing. It's going to be the number 12 and the mighty 38, which is part of the tradition of endurance racing now with that car. Yeah, they've got a great lineup in the 12 with Alex Lynn and Will Stevens and Norman Natto.
I like that combination, by the way. I like they've taken a few from Caddy, a few from Jota, and
yeah, it's all about gelling. The whole thing, not just the drivers, but the team from the technical point of view, getting the GM guys in with the Jota guys. Probably going to take a few races. I think Sam Hignet's been public in that. But look, I expect them to be really competitive here, and as we saw in the prologue, they're right at the top of the timesheets. And the 38 car with Jenson Button, obviously the big name in that car. I think they're in line for a really, really good season. And look, let's be honest, Cadillac is slightly underachieved in terms of outright results. They got that podium, didn't they, at Le Mans in 23. They showed great one-lap pace, but it hasn't quite happened for them in races. If they can iron out some of those little mistakes and been on the back foot, then I think Cadillac will break through a bit like BMW this season.
And if there's anyone who can do that, I feel like it might as well be Jota.
Yeah, it goes without saying how good Jota are. In my mind, they're gold for a reason, right? They're winners. They want to go out there and they want to be on the top step. And I think from what we've seen of that package, and actually they were quick here, particularly in qualifying last year. I think if they get the tyre calls right, I think they could be a real threat to particularly Ferrari and BMW here.
Now, let's move on to Peugeot, who actually, we didn't really get to talk about this, did get a podium in Bahrain, and ultimately it happened after the race through some serious decisions, but they're making progress. They've got Malcolm Jacobson coming in. It's an exciting year for them.
Yeah, it felt like a bit of compensation, didn't it, after what happened here last year with that heartbreak on going into the last lap. Got that podium. I think that they shifted the driver lineup a little bit. Paul Di Resta has moved into the number 93 with Jean-Eric Verne. I think actually Peugeot could again have flashes of surprise this season. They've really learnt what they had in terms of bringing that 2024 look car in Imola last season. They got incrementally better. The 94's got experience of Loic Duval and Stoffel van Dorn, and they've got a great rookie. There's very few drivers who've had the buzz about them like Malte Jakobsen has. So that little injection of pace will just galvanise everything in that 94 car. So yeah, I think Peugeot occasionally could repeat what they did last season and get a podium.
And then on to Porsche, our reigning Drivers' World Champions for the number 6. There's been a lot of driver lineup changes there. They've been very open about the fact that they're only going to be using 2 drivers for several of the races this year. Can you talk us through kind of what's going on?
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, let's take the 6, the reigning champions, first of all. Andre Lotter, a glittering career. He's not part of the framework there. He's going to be with Genesis in 2026, which is going to be interesting in itself. Vantor and Estra, probably among 2 of the top 5 drivers consistently from last season, are going to be joined in, I think, the majority of races probably by Matt Campbell. That, to me, feels like just almost a sort of impenetrable, positive, talented trio. So they're going to be, again, I think, defending the championship is entirely possible for Porsche Penske in the number 6. Number 5, almost as good across the board. Obviously, Michael Christensen is in that car. Julien Anlau has been promoted from Proton into a full factory seat. And Matteo Jaminet, who's done great things in IMSA recently, is going to be part of that squad as well. So, yeah, Porsche were fantastic here last year. They really read the tyre situation extremely well. The engineering and the Penske and the Porsche elements are now feels as though they're completely cooked and ready to go. So I think actually Porsche Penske have got a really good chance of defending their title.
And I don't want to walk too much further because we have got the number 99 Proton competition behind us, which has a bit of a lineup change. I think the most interesting name coming into that car is Nico Verona, a very familiar name for anyone who's been following WEC the last few years.
Yeah, a champion in LMGT3, of course, with Ben Keating and the Corvette guys back in 23. Yeah, really quick Argentine driver. He's getting much more familiar with the hypercar way of doing things this season. And Nico Pino, a fellow South American who's from Chile, who had his first season last year with United in LMGT3. He's going to be finding his feet a bit more, I think, in the opening races. But there's no reason not to say that, like last year, on occasions, with the experience of Neil Jarni in that car, that the only Porsche privateer car could be mixing it with the factory cars on a few racetracks. Super quick at Spa, I think at Le Mans, Jarni's experience is crucial as well. So yeah, expect some good cameos from those guys.
And finally, last but by no means least, Toyota Gazoo Racing, reigning manufacturers world champions. And I think the big narrative for me this year, both Porsche and Toyota kind of want revenge on the other, right? Neither of them did the double this time. Toyota haven't changed a lot, and I suppose if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah,
that's been part of their makeup for the last couple of seasons. They pulled it off last season when nobody expected them to overtake Porsche in that last race. Sebastian Buemi's epic, legendary final stints in that car. People are still talking about it, even now, sort of 3 or 4 months on. I think Toyota have got to be really clever and cute, though, this season. There hasn't been much that they can develop on that car. It's obviously an older design than most of the other ones, but their technical knowledge, just their savvy in terms of getting the strategies right and the tyre calls right, with the experience of those drivers and the continuity of those drivers, I think that you'd be a fool to dismiss Toyota out of the manufacturer battle. But I think Porsche, certainly it hurt Porsche that they lost the manufacturer title in the last sort of hour or 2 hours of last year's race. So I expect Toyota to come back fighting, but they're going to have to be clever this year. Absolutely.
Right, Sam, it's 2025. Who are you predicting? We're obviously not getting rid of this for this season.
It's going to be super tough. My head says Ferrari are going to be tough to beat this year.
Okay.
Which Ferrari? I wouldn't like to say. I think that all 3 have got a real crack at the title. I think there's going to be. It's not going to be like last season where you've got a breakaway 3 who are just going to be sort of isolated for the big silverware. I actually think that BMW certainly will be in the mix. I think Cadillac, if the Jota and the GM and the Cadillac sort of triumvirate really gel together quickly, then they could be a threat, particularly with the number 12 car. It's too tight to call, but head says Ferrari. Heart kind of says that BMW could really put a surprise in this season, because they found out a lot about that car, and I think that WRT brings such a tight and sort of really dynamic sort of zest to the way they operate, and their drivers are excellent as well. So yeah, I go with BMW creating a shock this season.
I love it. And drop your predictions down in the comment section below. We'll circle back to this in about 9 months' time, and either you sound like a genius or we prove you wrong entirely. I'm excited to see which. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam, and thank you for joining us. Don't forget to check out our LMGT3 preview as well. And the 1812 kilometers of Qatar is going to be happening on Friday. Make sure you do not miss it. This season opener is going to be spectacular.